Saturday and right through Sunday. A lot happening to WLNG Radio. We'll cover it all for you at 92.1. All the hits all the time. That's LNG's winning formula. Oh, this is a great one. That's some solid gold. 92.1. It's some 80s music, 70s music, everything. This time we'll go 70s, all right? Is that okay? Sing along with the words. Come on, you know the record, huh? Little Mama, remember her? I know. Woo! One more once, all right? We can do it. For Mama, please. For Mama. Wood Causeway, that's where it all started a long, long time ago. It's grown quite a bit. Same spot. It all started way back when, 63. And we're still going, we think, mighty strong. And this is our main area, main headquarters for WLNG Radio. All the information, it's right here too. So, and we've got a lot of people working away right now. There's no question about that here. And here are some of the people that helped us over the years. Now, all these signs and good things about the station that we're very, very proud of also. Take a look-see. What do you say, okay? As you can see, this radio station, it's more than just Paul Sidney. Look here, huh? Everybody's here. And those who left, if we like them, they come back. They always come back to the one and only 92.1, an original WLNG radio. Take a look. It all started in 1963, and it's still going mighty strong like. Live, we're local. It's WLNG Radio, Sag Harbor, Southampton. As I say, we cover the entire big signal area. North Fork, South Fork, and now anywhere around the world. You can pick it up, WLNG.com. We're proud of that situation because nobody's doing the kind of radio that we're doing, and we have done for over 43 years from WLNG. 5 years of age, and boy, I wanted radio right from the very, very beginning. Everybody was playing in Brooklyn, New York, baseball and things of that sort. I was there listening to WOR in New York City. Loved every moment of it. There was no question about it. I was listening to WOR in New York City in those days, 710 on the radio dial, and I wanted this in a big, big way. Everybody was playing baseball and, listening what the Dodgers were doing. And they were great, the Brooklyn Dodgers. But I was listening to everybody on the radio, where they're from and that type of situation on a one-to-one basis. And in those days, even a station like WOR would play records besides, talking to people. But it was the people that really knew how to do the whole presentation. And that's what's in my head, thank goodness. I hung around the Dumont studios in New York City, WABD, Channel 5, New York's window on the world. And I saw everybody get started over there. Most of them were radio people who went to television. And that was quite a thing. There's no question about the situation. A lot of those people went to the big networks after, and I was there once in a while. I even got a chance to get on the camera, and that's to talk about the early 50s or so on Channel 5 in New York City, WABD, New York's window on the world. We like a radio station involved with the people, what they do, where they're going, and everything like that. It's more than just playing the records, even though we're known for our gold golden oldies, so many hit records from way back when till almost right now. But it's what's in between the records that really counts. The people, the involvement in the community on a one-to-one situation.
He's just an amazing person, and I'm really glad so many people showed up to show their appreciation and their love for him. The most important message that Paul Sidney can give anybody is follow your dream, make it come true, and just keep doing it, because if you love it, you can make anybody love it.
I guess meeting up with the various people, watching what was going on, and every so often they put me on the television, as a matter of fact, Dumont television, and television was treated like radio in the original days, because a lot of the TV guys came from the radio, so they knew how to do it. As I say, it was very real, no scripts, on a one-to-one basis, and that's what I remember. And I'm sorry to say, is that changed as time went on. Everything was planned ahead of time. In the original times, that was not the case. Everybody just got on the air and it worked out. If Jackie Gleason fell on the stage, he just got up and kept going on and on. That's what television was about. That's what radio was about also. I guess so many great people who really knew how to do it, and I listened very, very carefully, and we learned it that way. There's no question about it. Everything was, live and very, very local at the time. Nothing was written, and that's where we really got to know how to do radio and as well as television. No question about it.
I wanted to get into the radio business, so I used to do road condition reports for all of the radio stations that were AAA affiliates. There were about 20 in Connecticut at the time, and so I applied for a job. It was a good way for me to, make contacts in the radio business, and Paul said he'd give me a chance, if I wanted to go on the air, so he let me do a newscast at WLIS. I remember him saying, if you screw up, you'll never be on again. But I didn't screw up, so I've been on the air ever since. That was in 1963, long time ago.
The bottom line is taking care of people in a one-to-one situation, helping other people. And that's more important than how much money you're going to make and things like that. And if you do a good job over there, the word really gets out, and it's a great feeling. There's no question about that on a one-to-one situation. Don't forget, it's one person at every time, not who's out there, that type of scene. So many people, the early days of radio and television, and that's where I learned it all. There's so many names I could name right now, as I say, and I should think of them. And because you're throwing this, my good from Arthur Godfrey right down the line. Okay, Dennis James, certainly part of the Dumont scene, did everything in radio as well as in the television. Dennis James, among many other people.
The first time I heard Paul Sidney on the radio, my initial response is, this guy has a hell of a British accent, When I got to know him, I realized that he had a great, tremendous flair for radio at every level. He understands the medium. He's the type of guy, he's the ultimate radio guy. If you ask him what time it is, he'll give you the time, the temperature, and the call letters, too. He'll get those in there. But that's not the reason I love Paul. I love him for many reasons, not the least of which, in fact, actually, the most of which, is that we have a common adoration, and that's for the great songbook, the great American songbook, the golden era of American popular music. The music of Glenn Miller and Artie Shaw and Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey, the songs of Cole Porter and George Gershwin and Johnny Mercer and Harold Arlen, the great stuff. Don't get me wrong, I like rock and roll. And it's hard to believe, but it's true. It has lasted over twice as long as the golden era. Absolutely. Why should I knock it? As was alluded to, I had a hit record in 1956. It was a rock and roll hit in Green Door. I'm temporarily between hits, you see. But I'm still hoping for the best. Paul you can be and will be saluted on so many different levels. But I do enjoy with you the adoration of our kind of music. And I'd like to quell a rumor, by the way. The rumor is that I live in the past. That is so untrue. I do keep a small apartment there, but I don't live in the past. Paul lives in the past, the present, and the future. Paul, God bless you.
Thank you, Jim Lowe. I'd like to introduce somebody who is a good friend of mine and who also cares very much for WLNG, and particularly his friend Paul Sidney. Joining us this evening is former Congressman George Hochbruckner and his wife Carol Ann. George and Carol Ann, please join us up here.
Paul, Carol and I are just delighted to be here. You know, there aren't too many fixtures in people's lives, and 42 years of history is something that certainly deserves great praise. We're very pleased to be here to wish you well, and thank you for many, many hours of great music. And of course, as Mike said, every time we'd go to a store opening or what have you, you were there. So the East End says thank you very much, and so do Carolyn and I.
There's so many. There's so many artists who just knew how to do it. They could just ad-lib, whether it was worldly news about a record. They knew everything about everybody, and a lot of times there were no scripts in front of them. They would just go, and they did not know they were honest enough, and the listener would tell them exactly, oh, that's so-and-so. And that's the amazing thing about the good days of radio, when the people and the station worked hand in hand, no question about it. Radio is not what it used to be. When I got excited, I'd go from one station to another and say, wow, this guy is as good as this guy. Everybody was a little different. Everybody today is the very same, and a lot of times they're not even at the radio station. One guy might be 50 miles away, being on various stations 100 miles away, and that type of thing. So we're losing that one-to-one situation, which I got to know by listening to all these folks when I was rather young also, and it's all my, I can hear it still. That's the important thing. It's good to be right here, okay? Tony, are you there, Tony? Good to be back right here on WLNG. The Godfrey, of course, he certainly started the whole situation on a one-to-one basis. Everybody part of it, but he ran the whole presentation. And when he sold something, he sold it. There's no question about that. And that's part of the beginnings of radio that brought him over to television, you know, once a week. And also he did the interviews and things like that, new talents to put on the air, Arthur Godfrey and the company. That would be one another person that we certainly were associated with as far as thinking, hey, someday I'd like to be like an Arthur Godfrey, that type of thing. And how about the guy from ABC and HOA, Herb Oscar Anderson, just one of the best. He knew how to introduce the record, you know, and talk to the people. And he, at that time, of course, now he's well into his 70s, but he was only in his 20s at the time, and he was talking to grandma and mom and dad. He had that one-to-one basis that made the big difference. Hello again, HOA, okay? Certainly, we still love him, and we would love to hear him again on the radio. Too bad we don't hear him anymore. HOA, Herb Oscar Anderson.
Well, introduce Big John Bina, who joins us from Providence Radio and a longtime friend of Paul Sidney, and he's a native from West Hampton Beach. John?
Thank you very much. A microphone. In radio, we all come alive in front of a microphone. Back many, many years ago, I went to West Hampton Beach High School with Gary Sapien, Bob Raines, people that ended up in radio. And through Gary, I met Paul Sidney. And I was, for some reason, always drawn to radio. I don't really understand it yet, but I knew it was something I had to do. And for most of us in the business, it's something we have to do. But if you listen around to any radio station, as a young announcer, you know that you need to do something a little differently. And a lot of people are just marking time on the air. Paul Sidney was certainly not one of those people. Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Give him a big round of applause. Go ahead. The thing that struck me about Paul is that he sounded the same on the air as he did off the air. Animated on the air, maybe doubly animated off the air, I'm not sure. But I learned a lot from him. I learned that when you go on the air and you perform for people every day, you need to be different, you need to stand out, you need to do your job well, you need to be creative, and you need to do it sometimes in the space of 5 or 10 seconds. So it's a lot to do.
I would say people. On a one-to-one basis, everybody's a part of the situation, helping other people. Sure, play the records, play the music, talk about who won the baseball and things like that. A one-to-one situation. If we have something to say, we'll go 5 minutes or 6 minutes. We might do it in less than 30 seconds, and that's what WLNG is all about. The surprise, and that's what has made the radio station highly popular for the last 45 years. And more. As I say, the localness of radio, which is no longer around, I'm sorry to say, where, most radio stations, some companies own 6, 8, 10 radio stations, and you walk in the building and there's literally nobody there. And we like the idea, we have a radio station, probably about 30 people or so, doing something for the people of the community, as much as we play the music, what's in between the records that really counts on a one-to-one basis, and that makes a big difference. As I say, sometimes we'll play 2 records in a row, sometimes we might not play one for maybe a half hour or so, depending what we're talking about. So the surprise of WLNG radio is what's kept us going so many years. All right, this is LNG Radio. This is only part of our scene on the air. Folks over here who make this thing happen every day. Not everybody's on the list, but this is me. This is Paul. I've been with this WLNG Radio since 63, 64. We've come a long way, the whole entire radio station. We had a few people when we started. We have a lot more right now, doing it on a basis one-to-one every single day for the advertisers, for the people out there, for their sponsors and things like that, the commercials, and of course we think some of the best music that ever came out for the last 50, 60 years, even sometimes we go way back before that time too. We want to surprise everybody on the golden 92.1. There I am. I had a little hair those days, but you can't tell by that little hat over there. But there it is. And there's the rest of the crew from Fun Radio WLNG 92.1. Now this is our big unit. Opposite our big unit's another unit. Almost as big, but not quite as big. Take a look and see at this situation, okay? So we got more units and more things like that. It might be one radio station, but we're taking care of a lot of people. Sometimes we do 1, 2, 3 remotes within the same time, which is unheard of in this day and age, from one radio station, 92.1, the golden 92.1, with lots of information besides all the records too. That's what it's all about on the golden 92.1 WLNG Radio. It all started on AM 1600. Now it's on FM 92.1, but this is where it began, okay? And as I say, we still have this nice antenna in the backyard, and again, it's a good idea for all the boaters out there too. They see, especially at the nighttime, the lights, so they know, and they're in little old Sag Harbor, Long Island, New York, that's for sure.
I remember the first time I met Paul. I'd heard him on the radio for so many years that I had lived out here, but I wasn't working for the station. And he was doing a remote over at the old King Cullen Center, and right here in Hampton Bays, as a matter of fact. And he and Gary Sapien were on the air talking about Reptile Rob's, which was a shop that used to be over there. And I decided this time I had to go by and see who these guys were. Now, I had seen Paul around because he had been everywhere, all over the East End, doing a lot of remotes and things. And I went there and I said hi and I introduced myself, and he immediately put me on the air like he does, not having any idea who I was or what I was doing there. And we proceeded to banter back and forth for a while about what a great place Reptile Rob's was, and of course I'd never been there. And but he just decided that's what he was doing, so it went out very well. And I talked to he and Gary for a while, and I went back, and finally he had said, well, listen, if you're interested in learning this radio stuff, he said, then come on down to the station someday, I'll show you around. So I did do that, and basically it turned out that I told him I'd like to try and do some things that he was doing, and I knew the area, and I knew I could talk. So it was just a matter of learning the technical stuff. And, well, for the next few years, that's exactly what he taught me. And I started out pretty much part-time and ended up full-time. And I'm still very full-time. And I'm proud to say I've kind of, followed in his footsteps in that, like I said, I do most of the remotes on the station. I get to meet all the great people, most of which were here tonight, of course, for this very special event. And as much as Paul, whether you hate him, whether you love him, no matter what it is, you know who he is, you know what he has to say. And you know what? That's a heck of a legacy. That people know who and what you stand for and what you do. And it's really an honor just to be a part of WLNG and what it does. And I consider myself someone that's been around now. I'm going on my 9th year. And it's Dana Kelly, all right. And I just have a lot of fun doing it. And I didn't realize until Paul had been missing the last 8 months or so, just how much I had picked up as I started to emulate some of the things.
That's the whole situation. Everything is a surprise with WLNG radio. Nothing is planned ahead of time, and that makes the big difference. But we always remember the people are the most important situation. Without them, we might as well not even go behind the microphone, that's for sure. As I say, we'll stop. To help somebody in any way, whether it's a youngster, adult, somebody who needs help, we'll just stop everything we're doing. And that's been the secret of WLNG radio, having a good time and knowing there's somebody out there that really cares about you.
So many of the competitors of WLNG are in this room this evening because they have great affection for Paul Sidney and for the path that he's carved in radio. One of those people I'd like to introduce, our good friend from WRIV Radio, Bruce Tria.
So I'm sitting in a room next to my friend Jack Craneville, who was in Riverhead eons ago with me. And if you think about it, what a room it is. Jim Lowe, who typified and personified the excellence of what was the greatest radio station in North America, WNEW. Walt Pinto, who I heard reading the news on WYCC 30 years ago when I was first working out there at WLNG. And John Beanick, great announcers, great personalities, people who brought something to the industry. Gary Sapien, who taught me how to run a board at LNG 30 years ago. Paul made it clear to us, as newbies in the business, that we work in communications and that our job is to reach through the radio and speak to a listener and make them want to talk back to the radio. In a lot of ways, it's a lost art. But in a lot of ways, it survives. It survives at LNG. It survives with John. It survives with Jack on Light FM. And I try to do my little part to keep it going. So I think we're all fortunate to have had a good teacher in this line of work from Paul Sidney. There are two things that I wanted to say. First of which is, I think that I'm an anomaly in the room. I think that I am one of 3 people that Paul fired from WLNG. And I also think that I'm the last person who was fired from WLNG. And that was, 26 years ago. And I've made it all the way to Riverhead. But what a great teacher to have, and as an individual goes, Paul, and I don't think Paul would say this, but the single biggest word in Paul's vocabulary, and I think the driving force in his life, as an individual outside of radio, take radio away, Paul is a remarkably loyal person. He stands by his friends. And I think of all the things that I've learned from my parents, my grandparents, and from Paul, that is the quality that is most admirable in Paul Sidney. Paul, thank you very much for the break.
We thank you guys very, very much. As I say, we want to keep the same thing going. We like doing it not because we're on television right now or even on radio. It's being with the people. And you certainly, you guys, they're our favorite TV station. You deserve a lot of credit for the type of thing you're doing, which we're doing on the radio, you're doing on television. So hats off to you guys, too. It's about me. I rather talk about other people and have a good time do it. I don't like that, situation. Just do your job. And so I don't know why they're making a big thing out of something that I love doing, but it's nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Sidney. I'm here in the famous WLNG truck. It's not exactly a truck, it's a bus, Paul. Paul, I miss you when you're not on the air. And here you are, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Sidney.
What can I say? We're here. We're alive. We're well. Better than we were, I'll tell you.
And making beautiful music and nice
You're
radio.
right, yeah.
Well, it's terrific having you back.
People here. A lot of people love what's going on, but they love to walk around. They got cameras and things like that. And it turned out it's a pretty good day. Some of the sunshine, some of the clouds. Not a perfect day, but it's very, very humid, as I recall, right?
I'll tell you the truth, though. It didn't look like much of a day this morning with all the dark clouds and the things that were going on with all the rain. But what has happened is it's cleared up nicely. The sun had come out for a while. Nice breeze across the Hampton Classic grounds. We got 60 acres of pleasurable walking over here. The roads are batted down, and it actually keeps the dust down, keeps the humidity down, and makes it a very, very pleasant experience.
You won't believe it. VVH. They got all these channels now. They got all these cameras and things like that. Now, not one, but 3, 4, 5. I remember there was one little guy in there. It's amazing. Now, who's the guy who's doing the little video right now? Who's this? Say hi.
This is Bob Barris.
Okay, Bob. How long have you been involved with these folks?
About 10 years.
Oh, that's great. Okay, very good.
It's my 8th classic.
All right, you enjoying yourself, seeing everything that's going on over here?
Absolutely. I'm on top of the scoreboard. I got the bird's eye view.
All right.
He gets the good seat, doesn't
There
have
you
to pay
go.
for
We got to
it,
wait
right?
10 years for that, but you got it. That's the important thing.
I recall your wonderful work with Hurricane Bob, when when you actually told every neighborhood when the lights were coming on. I remember I was very concerned because my fudgicles were melting. And luckily, I had to eat the whole box, and because of you, I'm about.
I try to get you good humor, see, but it never worked. What can I tell you? I wasn't connected. We're both from Brooklyn originally, and we know where they were, right?
We do. Good seeing you, Paul.
Right,
God bless you.
All the best to you. That's what LNG is all about. It's more than just a string of records, that's for sure, but a record of service. The Golden 92.1. So great to be here. Thank you very, very much.